Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Aussie Ideas Man. This is going to cover a little bit of a video by Aptera Owners Club. The cretin has covered a solar racer that he thinks justifies the claims that Aptera Motors makes about their silly trike. And I'm here to say that they don't. Hopefully, I won't use much of his video this time, and I'm going to not show my face. I'm going to just talk, so you can only put up with my Ocker accent and the drone that is the voice I was born with. Unfortunately, that's all I can do. And I make mistakes as I watch my laptop screen, so what you end up getting is never as good as what it could be had I better skills. Nevertheless, I'll interrupt a couple of times and I'll add a few things from elsewhere just to let you know that the cretin's leading you astray with this idea that a winning race car from the Solar Challenge can give anyone an idea that the exorbitant claims of Chris Anthony, the snake oil salesman, are close to the mark. I'm sticking my neck out because they may one day come out with real independent tested figures that show they are close to the mark. So we'll just see what happens. But in the meantime, don't be led astray. Keep an open mind. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. It's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. Last month, the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge finished, and as most of you guys are probably familiar with it, this is a event that's been run almost every 2 years since about 1987, and it runs from Darwin, Australia, to Adelaide, Australia, and it runs through the middle of the outback here, and it.
I'll just stop here, just out of interest's sake. Well, I don't know whether you would be interested, but one year, I think it was 2019, I'm pretty sure it was 2019, we drove from Adelaide to Alice Springs. It was my wife and my sister and two of my friends from Adelaide. And the aim of our drive to Alice Springs was to walk around Kings Canyon and climb Uluru, which formerly was known as Ayers Rock. I can tell you that I successfully did both, and I was probably 66 at the time, I think, and that's no mean feat. To be able to climb the very top of Ayers Rock and back is pretty good. Obviously, my sister, who was a year older, she did it too. She's exceptionally fit. Anyway, before we get going, the reason why I tell you about this trip we had was because along the way we saw a funny little vehicle coming towards us. And as it got within visible recognition, I saw that it was a Solar Challenge vehicle. It must have been the one winning at the time. And after that, in dribs and drabs, we saw more and more of them. Probably about, I don't know, say 2 dozen in the vicinity. And then we stopped at a roadhouse for fuel and lunch. And lo and behold, parked around the roadhouse were about 8 of these vehicles. They had stopped, I guess, just for lunch. And I was able to walk around them, touch them, and get a close look at how well they were constructed. And let me tell you, they were extremely flimsy, to say the least. They were so flimsy that there is no way in the world you could transpose that sort of engineering into a usable vehicle. So anyway, I'll let the cretin take over from there and see what he says.
In 1987, that was the very first World Solar Challenge, and the GM Sun Racer won the event at an average speed of 41 miles per hour. And this is what it looked like. It weighed about 390 pounds, and I think it generated about 1,500 watts, which is about double the um, the wattage that the Aptera will produce at peak. So at peak, because it has a lot more surface area, and this one basically ran on completely on solar. You couldn't charge it from the outside. This one had a coefficient of drag of 0.125, which is very similar to 0.13, Aptera's coefficient of drag. But if you look at this, it looks very, very aerodynamic. And I think it loses some aerodynamics because so much of its wheels are exposed. And these exposed wheels really affect the aerodynamic drag of the machine. This year, what's interesting is is there are a couple of different classes. In 2013, they introduced this cruiser class. And this is kind of what's more interesting to us as Aptera fans is the cruiser class. Basically, they're trying to make a practical solar electric vehicle. And so what they're doing is they are saying that it has to have at least four wheels. So that's just their design parameter. You have to have at least two passengers, and you can use solar energy and an external recharge. Now, the winner of the winner of the cruiser class this year was from University of New South Wales, and it was a car called the SunSwift 7. So it has a lot of similarities with the Aptera. So the body is a carbon fiber monocoque, and this car has a coefficient of drag of 0.095, which is surprising because if you look at the vehicle, here's what it looks like. It looks like it should be less aerodynamic than the Sunracer. But what you'll notice is that the wheels are almost completely covered in the front and the back. And if you look at the design of this thing, if you look here, it looks a lot like the Aptera in that it comes down to a little point in the back, and you can see if they just stuck the wheel in the center here, it would look a lot like the Aptera. You can make it more Aptera shaped, and they covered the front wheels without putting them out on those outriggers. And so you can see by covering those wheels, they achieve a coefficient of drag that's significantly less than the Sunracer, even though from initial view, you would think that this is much more aerodynamic than this. So a couple of months ago, they basically drove 621 miles or 1,000 kilometers in less than 12 hours on a single charge. Their specs are their car weighs 500 kilograms, which is about half the weight of the Aptera. Aptera will weigh about 1,000 kilograms. Their coefficient of drag again is 0.095, which is significantly better than Aptera's of 0.13. And their efficiency is what's most impressive. They have a 38 kilowatt hour battery, and that will allow them to go about 950 miles. So almost 1,000 miles of range on a 38 kilowatt hour battery pack. That is compared to Aptera, that has a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack in the launch edition, will go about 400 miles. So many people have doubted the coefficient of drag numbers of the Aptera, as well as its range and efficiency numbers, because they think that those are unattainable numbers. But you can see that this vehicle has almost 3 times the efficiency of the Aptera. And so the Aptera's efficient and the coefficient of drag is significantly better. So it is a more aerodynamic vehicle, and it's half the weight, and it achieves almost 3 times the efficiency of the Aptera. So the Aptera's efficiency numbers look like well within reach when you think about in comparison with the SunSwift 7. Now the SunSwift 7 obviously doesn't have like any HVAC system. It doesn't have any airbags. It doesn't have any anti-lock brakes. It basically, is a stripped down vehicle that just goes and has a battery and a solar panel and some steering controls, but it doesn't have any creature comforts at all. So it's not really a fully practical car. But as you can see, it achieves 25 miles per kilowatt hour rather than Aptera's 10 miles per kilowatt hour because of its lighter weight and improved aerodynamic efficiency. But as you
A long list of those creature comforts are what makes the difference between the race car and Aptera. There are so many of them that each one would whittle away the efficiency, and in sum total, the efficiency would get well below the claims that Aptera make about its road car. I call it a road car, but it's poor use of the term car. It's not a car. Anyway, what I'm saying here is he underestimates what all of the creature comforts that are required for a road car that would sell. He underestimates the effect that that would have on efficiency. Keep in mind also that Aptera has made these efficiency claims using a computer, and we don't even know whether the computer factored in all those features that must be in the car. We do know that the fake prototypes didn't have them, even up to the point that the Gamma didn't even have regenerative braking. So there were so many things missing that if the computer had not factored them in, then it's bound to make errors as to how efficient the Aptera really is.
Saw from that cockpit picture. It's a stripped down vehicle. So, anyways, this this gives me more confidence in Aptera's numbers. Now, Aptera has not released their coefficient of drag from their Pininfarina wind tunnel test, and they haven't released any efficiency numbers from any of their test vehicles, the Alpha, Beta, or the Gamma. And I think it's because they want to wait for the production intent vehicle, which will be obviously different
The cretin has begun guessing again.
than any of their previous models. And I think they're waiting for that to release the numbers. And I don't know if they should release the numbers from the alpha and the gammas and the betas. Obviously, the beta is not aerodynamic, so you couldn't get good efficiency numbers from them. I don't know if it would hurt them or help them to release those numbers depending on how close it is. And many people in the comments and detractors of Aptera have said, well, they haven't ever released those numbers, and that probably tells you those numbers are unrealistic.
Yes, the numbers are likely to be unrealistic, but the problem is they're also likely to be unreliable. And it's deceptive to advertise performance claims and not have them be reliable. Bad enough unrealistic, but people are putting their money down on this product and they need reliable information. It just isn't there.
But just basing it off the SunSwift 7, those are easily obtainable efficiency numbers and easily obtainable coefficient of drag numbers. So
They're easily obtainable if you got 1.2 million to spend on a race car, but they're not easily attainable if you're putting out a road car for the masses. You're comparing two things that are so wildly different that you can't draw conclusions from them.
I suspect they're not very far off, and Aptera is just being cautious by not releasing the numbers until the production intent vehicles are tested, which hopefully we'll have those numbers by mid next year or earlier, hopefully. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Tell me what you guys think of the SunSwift 7.
Well, I'm almost at the end of this video. I still can't remember that the race car is called Sun Swift 7. I have to keep looking it up. In any case, I just took this other little video because the cretin left out the cost of this racer, and this little video shows that it was at least $1.2 million for one car. Now, that $1.2 million gets you the efficiency. And if you're going to make thousands of production cars, a lot of that money has to go into each individual car, which Aptera is not about to do, not at all cars being under $50,000. So all I need to do now is make a list of all of the things that the racer has, just to show that the efficiency gets whittled away with each thing that Aptera has to have in a production car. And then it'll just be, that's all for me. That's all for me. Bye for now. Stay safe.